can you guys share with me like where's your startup base or where's your market base in the chat? So that would be great. And then I'll let Stephanie introduce as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Daylon. And great to have all of you here for this session. I'm really excited for this because I am a newbie in UX myself. But yeah, very, very excited to have Daylon Soh here with us. He's the ex-global e-commerce architect at Razer and a guru in sharing user experience and making it really easy to understand and to help people optimize their products and services with a base understanding. So really bringing an understanding of how having a lens around UX can help you, think from the perspective of your clients, customers, and improve the design experiences as well. Because if you really care about your solutions and your products and services, it's really valuable to have this lens. So applicable for anyone in your organization, especially as a leader. So thank you, Daylon, for being here and sharing your time with us. I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie, for the introduction. And I'm very excited to be part of this because I had a look at some of the startups that has been accepted into this program. I know all of you are working towards one of the Sustainable Development Goals for the United Nations. That's really, really interesting. So we do two things really well in the company that I run. I'm a founder myself. Number one, we help mid-career professionals transition into a role of user experience design in tech industry. And number two, we help enterprises and corporations understand the value of user experience design and upskill their workforce, right? So we work with Prudential, an insurance company, Hewlett Packard, which is a consumer electronic company. So these are some of the more bigger clients that we work with. And people often ask me, what's the value and why do you need to study user experience design, right? And I tell them this, it's a problem-solving skill that you can apply to all the important parts of your business. So you are all founders over here, right? You understand that marketing is important, operations is important, product development is important. UX is this one thing that when you learn it, you can apply it, and it always keeps your business grounded and very close to the customer and what the market wants. And it reduces your risk as a founder when you're launching new products and services, as well as when you're optimizing your product or your marketing campaigns or your operations campaign. So an example of how it was used previously was that in Prudential, we had the operations team come learn this skill with me over 2 days. And they managed to reduce their operational workflow from 14 days to 7 days and actually prototype the entire experience and deliver a much better customer experience. This is the one thing that the tech startups you respect use to have a competitive advantage over all the other traditional companies. So I'm going to share it with you as much as possible. It's a lot to cover in the next 40 minutes, and I want to have some time to take questions as well. So feel free to take as many screenshots of the slides as you want. Stephanie is also recording this, so you're going to have access to it later. Feel free to type your questions in chat anytime. If you have a specific question, I'll try and answer it later. Your 100% participation and focus is important. Put your phones away because we're going to go very fast from here. Okay, this is what I do for a living. I teach and I coach people. Some of my students work for some of the biggest tech companies in the region, including Alibaba, Shopee, Government Technology of Singapore. And these are some of the clients I serve in consulting, including Razer. And these are some of the clients that I train with, and I teach in Institute of Higher Learning in Singapore as well. Now, the idea over here, and this is also why I'm doing this, is I really believe in the power of what I'm teaching and helping leaders like yourself understand the value of design. So this is what we're going to roughly cover. What is UX? How is it relevant to you? Is this an art or science, right? And we're going to do a test, right? If you can, I ask everyone to mute yourself during this presentation. So this is something you probably already know as a tech startup founder. We see technology disrupting a lot of the existing services out there. And you probably are aware of Grab if you're in the Southeast Asia region, or Uber disrupting taxi companies. So if we are building software and technology solutions, right, it doesn't start with writing code immediately. It actually starts with learning how the customer experience and the design should be. And that's really where that is a good starting point versus like just building code, making assumptions, and then shipping stuff out there, and then nobody wants to use it. So that's the most dangerous thing you could do as a founder, because you're going to waste time, you're going to waste resources, and you're just taking unnecessary risk, right? So this is going to show you a video of how we usually work in a design sprint process.
Super fast intro to our sprint process. The big idea with a sprint is to build and test a prototype in just 5 days. It's kind of like fast forwarding into the future so you can see how customers react before you go to all the time and expense of building a real product. Every sprint starts with a big challenge, a team of about 7 people, and a clear calendar. On Monday, you'll create a map of the problem and choose one specific target. On Tuesday, you'll create solutions to your problem. But instead of a shout-out-loud group brainstorm, you'll work alone to sketch detailed, competing solutions. On Wednesday, you'll pick the best solutions. Instead of endless debate, you'll use a structured decision-making process. On Thursday, you'll build 1, 2, or even 3 realistic prototypes. These prototypes are just a facade of a finished product. You can use tools like Keynote, Marvel, and Envision to create fake apps and websites, or to quickly prototype hardware, you can use a 3D printer or modify an existing product, or just prototype the marketing materials. Finally, on Friday, you'll test your prototypes in 5 one-on-one customer interviews. You'll find obvious patterns. Some solutions will work, but some won't. Either way, you'll have clarity about what to do next, and a great start on that big challenge. To learn more, check out our book, Sprint. It's got detailed hour-by-hour instructions, and it's packed with stories about startups like Slack and Medium and Flatiron Health. Good luck with your sprint, and thanks for watching.
This is a great book if you want to read it as a founder, and it's written by someone who worked for Google Ventures, where they were helping a lot of their own startups manage risk and be more successful. So you can check that out. So this is the typical user experience design lifecycle, right? It's circular because it's always continuous. We're always doing a number of these things along the process that he described earlier, right? We're understanding and researching. We're analyzing the data that we collected. We're designing either through very basic designs and wireframes or through more refined prototypes. And then we're validating these designs with the market and ensuring that they are not only usable, but it's also something that the market wants. Now, this is probably something that you already know, that this is a skill that can be applied to all of these things, whether you're running a marketing campaign, building a website, running your business operations, or being an entrepreneur. You can use all of these. And I say, whatever I'm teaching you here today, I apply it on my own business too, right? So this is the definition of user experience from someone who has written a book about design and is considered a visionary in the field of user experience design. Donald Norman, he used to be the vice president of research at Apple Computers before he started his own company. So this is his definition. Notice in the definition, there is no mention of whether this is a digital experience or it's a non-digital experience, and it includes services and products as well. Now, for UX design, I like to use this particular example. And we might have been in a situation where we're using the ketchup bottle on the left and we're getting the rest of the ketchup out of the bottle. and we need to smack the bottom of the ketchup, right? That not only takes us time, but energy as a user, versus the design on the right, where gravity does most of the work for us. I often tell the students that I teach that if you do your work well as a UX designer, and it doesn't mean that you need to have the title of a UX designer to be doing UX, right? But if you do your work well, you actually get to save people time, but also get to save them the energy, right, of going through a frustrating process. Now, fundamentally, UX is not just about interface design and visual design. And most people think it's just about making things look pretty. It is not. UX is all of these things. And as a founder with a team, you might already be doing some of these things, including talking to customers, including understanding what your site structure is going to be like, or how your product is going to be developed, what are the few core features and things like that, and communicating to people, the value of what you're doing in the process, right? If you're working for a bigger company or have worked for a bigger company before. So what we're really seeing over here in this entire life cycle, and if you haven't noticed it the first time, is that the user and the human being is at the center of everything. And you've ever hear of this term called human-centered design. Let me make the record clear that all UX design is human-centered. Okay, all UX design is human-centered. So if you hear of the term human-centered design, it just means UX design. It's exactly the same process. A company called IDEO decided to take it and rebrand it differently. But if you hear someone saying it, it's the same thing. If you hear someone speaking about design thinking, it's also the same thing, right? I teach all of these processes in the university and the school, and people get confused. There's really no need to get confused about it. It's the same process. Design thinking is a dumbed down version of UX design that's meant to be taught to business leaders. That's all. So here's an interesting question for everyone in the group, and we can have a little bit of a discussion around here. I'd like you to tell me, like in chat, just type, is UX design an art or a science to you, right? Which one are you leaning more towards to? I know you're going to tell me it's both, but there must be one side you're leaning more towards to, and then we're going to hear what everyone has to say. Yes, I know it's both, but you're saying it's more on art. Georgia, good. Right, Yusuf, which side are you on? Yusuf's on science. Stephanie's on science. Jeff is on art. Very cool. All right, so let's hear it a little bit from the group itself. Yusuf, why do you think it's a science? You can unmute yourself and speak to the mic.
It's science because the kind of interactions that we have with the environment, it's kind of like we live in an analog world and our systems are digital. So we need to science that out, I guess. That's what I'm thinking of. But then I'm trying not to say art as well at the same time because human and is, what do you call it? We are attracted to the lines and the of nature, which is art. So that's why I'm kind of saying both.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Yusuf.
Thanks.
Lovely
No
for sharing your comments. All right. Anyone else who are on the science side? Well, Nabiendu says it's neuroscience. You want to explain yourself?
Yeah, I think it's because you're actually facilitating more of the interaction between the human and computer, right? So you're creating better neural pathways for it to do that. So that's why I think it's neuroscience.
Yeah, there's definitely that. And if any of you have been catching the Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma, the entire practice that all these big social media and tech companies are practicing about growth and all that, that's also under the discipline of UX. And there are a lot of neuroscience.
It can be used towards good or for evil, right? With
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And I happen to teach my students that as well. But I do tell them, hey, with great powers come great responsibilities after after they go through my workshops. So yeah, that's great. Stephanie, you say it's a science. So why is it a science to you?
Yeah, I'm thinking kind of, I guess, the way you are creating in order to optimize for experiences. So it feels like there are some aspects of like formulas or pathways, or you're optimizing for something. So I look at the lens of intentional experimentation that we do in science.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of the scientific method at play. Fair enough. Thanks, Stephanie. So for those of you who wrote art, you're my people. Yeah, I'm a designer, so like I'm interested to know why you voted art. Maybe Min?
Um,
Yeah.
I believe it's an art. I mean, it has a scientific part too, but I believe it's more close to art because it's like it's really close and related with emotions and that part, like human, like you have to know about human and humans' emotion.
Yeah.
And it's like somehow I believe it's similar. Like when we see the art, it's like you have to feel it, how the artist wanted to like present their
work,
pictures and stuff. Yeah, works and stuff. So I believe it's
that's awesome. Yeah, that's a great explanation. Yeah, I'm for art, by the way. Just to let all of you know. So I want to hear from the others who also voted. Mahak, you know, you voted art. What's your take? Why do you vote art?
Hi. So I think because US design is so much based, you know, it has to have an impact. It's based on user stories. That is why I think it's art, because you know how art is, you know, something that is, you know, it makes an impact on people, you know, when they observe it. So to me, I feel that it's an art.
Lovely. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I'm gonna get you all to think about it a little bit more as I go through the slides, and it's up to you to decide which side you're on. And the more you learn about it, I'll say, yeah, you might lean towards one side more than the other. Overall, for me, I think it's an art because there are times where I feel like I don't have enough data to make that decision. And I still use my intuition, and I still use what I understand about the customer, which is empathy, to actually make those decisions. So here's a question then to everyone in this room. How do you measure good UX design? Like, can you measure it or can you evaluate it, right? I mean, measure will be more scientific, evaluate, I would say, more general. So how do you tell good UX from bad? If anyone would like to share.
I would say engagement over time. You can kind of, with great design in my life and brands that I've followed, I find that they could probably measure by the people that stay with them for a long period of time, and those great designs and great brands stick with you because of their UX. That's probably, yeah, quantitative. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Georgia. Yeah, engagement is definitely one of the metric. Customer loyalty, right? User loyalty, the number of times they use your products or the number of times they are engaged on it on a daily basis. I know Facebook for sure tracks this one metric, which is like how much time you spend on their platform on a day, right? And they segment it by each individual country. And fun fact, Singapore, out of all Southeast Asia country, has one of the highest engagement rates for Facebook. So that's one. What about any other methods that we can track or we can, you know, Net Promoter Score, Jeff, that's good. Yeah, Net Promoter Score. How likely would you recommend your friend? That's the question to ask. We use that back at Razer. After they purchase a product, we ask them, how likely will you recommend a friend this product? We track. It's actually one of the key metrics that we are measured on. Yusuf, could you explain what is end lasting experience?
I mean, after you've gone through the journey that they've been presented to us, how do you feel after? Like, do you feel annoyed because it was like, oh, this is so crap, or there was something there, or it was just like, okay, I can move on to my next thing without any burden on my head. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know how do you say that in mark. I mean, how do you measure that? But
yeah, that's definitely valid. I mean, satisfaction maybe it's a bit it's a bit one way. We have some ways to measure it. It's like, you know, like we do a little test at the end, like at the end of the process, and say, you know, do you like it? Is it like a smiley face? Is it like a sad face and stuff like that? So yeah, something like that. Okay, great. Any other approaches that any of you know or observe or notice? Okay, nope. Well, we'll go through some as well. So I'm going to go to my next slide. So here's a story, right? There's this great book called Outside In, written by the guys at Forrester Research. And Vanguard is a financial services firm in US. And if you look at their website over here in this screenshot, you say, hey, our long-term strategy is to put our clients first. Right. However, it was mentioned in this case study written in this book that whenever one of their clients pass away, they used to have this process where their client's spouse has to talk to different experts in the company, right? An investment expert, a tax expert, a legal expert, a financial expert. And talking to all these people is kind of disorienting for the client if you put yourself in their shoes for a bit, because your spouse just died and then you're put through this process where you have to explain again and again what's going on, right? It's kind of dehumanizing. But if you think about it from their perspective, when they were designing this process, they're like, of course our customers deserve the best, of course they need the best advice, right? So that was kind of the disconnect. So Vanguard realized there was something wrong with that process, and they ultimately decide to change their entire approach and only put one customer representative to tag to the client spouse, and the person will just interact with this customer representative and talk to the different people in the company. So the client doesn't have to navigate different people. And if you ask me what is the metric behind this, right? I can't tell you the metric, right? It's just something human to do. It's just something empathic that we should do. We understand this when we interact with our friends, right? But somehow when it's a larger company, it starts to get lost in translation. And we design all these processes that just seem a little bit insensitive, if I would put it. So it's about really bringing that back and just constantly, you know, being close to your customer and empathizing with your customer. And that is the art side of things. So let's play a little game, right? This is SimCity. This is a computer game. And this is the website where they're selling this computer game. And the only difference between these two pages, which we call a classic A/B test, is that on the left side, you have a pre-order banner. That's all. That's the only difference. The content in the page is all the same. Okay, so I'd like everyone to vote in chat, you know, which design led to better sales. Meaning if I were to split the traffic up and send traffic to both pages at the same time, which one would convert better as a page? Okay, everyone's saying left so far. Okay. Georgia saying right. Okay, first person saying right. What happened to the rest? You have to make a choice.
No fence sitters. Left or right?
Yeah, left or right. Just type it in chat. Get a general sense. So left, right. Well, what happened to the rest though? Anyway, thank you all for voting and the ones who are participating. I'm not sure if the rest of you understand my question. Left, I won $20 off. Got it, Yusuf. So yeah, let's try and really understand this. And there is this one method I always use with my team, right? I call it inverted thinking, right? So for those of you who voted the design on the left, right? For all of you who have voted the design on the left, I want you to take 1 minute or 2 minutes just to think about, is there any possibility that the design on the right would succeed and be the better design, right? What would the reason be if that happens? Let's take a minute or two to think about it. Is there any possibility that the design on the right would win? And if you want to share your thoughts, you can put it in chat. I'm reading it as we go along. Okay, Jeff says design on the right loads faster, therefore it will win. Yeah, fair assumption. Okay. All the buttons higher on the right. Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. All right, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I think inverted thinking really helps you to kind of consider those possibilities. So does anyone want to switch sides now? No? Okay, I'll get, maybe it's not so intimidating for Georgia to then share like her reason. You know, Georgia, what's your reason for picking the design on the right on the first time?
I just went with my gut. My intuition kind of told me that the order of that, kind of telling me to pre-order, just felt a little bit inhuman. So my gut just went with the right. Okay,
got it. Thanks, Georgia. And thanks for being so honest, right? It's very common, by the way. Even in a boardroom, people say, hey, it's just a gut feeling and I'm using my intuition. Okay. All right, so for those of you who voted on the left, I saw some of you wrote down the reason, like, does anyone want to share? Why do you vote the design on the left? Just want to hear a little bit. I think Yusuf, you were saying because it's a discount or something. And then Min is like saying, pre-order is my type. What does that mean, Min? 20 bucks off. Okay, totally.
Like whenever, if there's a chance that I can get like something off, and if that's like what I like, or let's say for example, if I buy a game, and if there's any chance that I can get like 20 bucks or 40 bucks off, like when I purchase one, then I'll just like go for it. I like discounts.
Yeah. Cool.
For me, Daylon, there were two things. One was the urgency in the language. So like pre-order, which creates a sense of like, I can be the first person. And then two, I think having the imagery at the top made it, and even the font made it feel a bit more updated, like where second feels a bit more outdated, maybe because of the font size and type.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Can I just point out two things that are happening over here? And this is just the neuroscience part about human beings. Stephanie, thanks for sharing, by the way. I think all these are all valid and fair assumptions. Okay, so there's actually two things that are going on, which I'm trying my best to help you mitigate by telling you to invert your thinking, right? So the first thing that's happening is a confirmation bias, right? So for those of you who voted for the design on the left, you are trying to, justify your reasons, either consciously or unconsciously, justify your reasons that the left one is the right answer, right? Same for those who voted on the right, right? So that's confirmation right here. I'm not sure how many of you was also influenced by the bandwagon effect, right? So the bandwagon effect says that if more people are voting left, they must be correct, right? So you're just jumping on the bandwagon. You're seeing what everyone is voting, and that's influencing the way you vote as well. So that's two things that are happening, right? And this is just for fun, but I just like to point that out gently to you. I always tell my students, be very careful about confirmation bias. It's the one thing you need to fight when you're doing research, because you're always like when you're collecting data, you don't want to just confirm whatever you already know. So without further ado, let me review the answer to you. Okay, Georgia, you are correct. The design on the right is the better design and the more superior design. In fact, it is statistically significant in result. So it's 43.4% more effective. What does that mean exactly, right? So if we have 1,000 cells for the design on the left, right? The design on the right, we have 1,434 cells, right? That's pretty significant if we think about the dollar value of the product itself. So, and I did not run this A/B test, but it was provided as a case study by one of the world's leading marketing automation software called HubSpot. So they ran this test, I suppose, in the US, and this was the result that they gotten. And if you ask me, as someone who has been practicing e-commerce for a while, what's the reason? It's very close to what some of you have shared in chat earlier when I asked you to invert your thinking, right? And the reason is that in e-commerce, as much as possible, we try not to distract our customer and bring them away from the goal. And the goal is the sale, right? So I did not run this test, but all I can do is assume that the pre-order banner leads them to an offer page that talks about the offer for their next purchase and nothing about buying the game right now. So that actually gives them the possibility of dropping out of that, I'll say, conversion funnel, and then they don't come back anymore. So that's my guess. And notice when the language I was using earlier, I said, hey, that's a fair assumption. That's a fair assumption over here. When I ask you to do this exercise, all we're making over here as designers, as tech founders, right, is an assumption. No one can say for sure that this is going to happen. No one can predict the future. If you were to ask me the same question, and I'm part of the audience member right now, right, I would say, let's test it. I don't know. Right? I don't know. Let's test it. That's my default response, and that's my default answer. And that's something I hope you take away and walk out of, because these days that's just it's so easy to do this. Right? There's software helping you to do it. There's no reason why you shouldn't do it. And a lot of the tech companies we know in Silicon Valley do this all the time. Okay. I think I'm having some response and questions, so let me see. If you already know, there will be another version later on. Purchase another version. Yeah, possibly, depends on understanding. Are they already a hardcore fan? Yes, Stephanie is right too. There are different types of users, but we're looking at it from a broad basis. The number of sales is better on the right. I used to play this game too much. Yes, yeah, I used to play this too in school. Okay, cool. Feel free to type your questions if you have any questions for me. But that's something I'll just like to bring across and share. And one of the common misconceptions is A/B tests, you can only test 2 designs. That's not true. You can actually test multiple designs if you have enough traffic. And back at Razer, we test a lot of different things. We test copy changes, we test image changes, just to see if we can get more people to add the product to cart. And I guess Facebook's goal, right, or Instagram's goal is to get you to click like, or comment on other people, or to engage more and come back to the platform. So that's their goal, right? Okay, so by now you're probably wondering what's going on, right? I thought this was just about design. I thought this was just about making things look pretty, but it's not. This entire discipline also has a component of neuroscience and the understanding of human psychology to it, right? And there's this concept called heuristics. What we can understand from this word, a rather big word and rather complicated word, is what it essentially means is that the human brain loves to take shortcuts and it's lazy by nature. So if you understand this is how the human brain works by default, you can design your entire experience to cater to this form of laziness, right? And what do I mean by that? So Daniel Kahneman, which is a Nobel Prize-winning economist, he wrote in his book Thinking Fast and Slow. He says, hey, there's two types of systems in the brain works in two modalities. Number one, system one is where we make very snap decisions, and we make we use very little cognitive effort. It's very easy for us to make these snap decisions along the way, right? And then there's system two, which is more deliberate decisions, like what kind of job should we apply for, which countries should we expand to, where should we live and where should we stay, which school should we go to. These are more heavy decisions and take a lot more load on our brain. So it's important for us to understand, as we're getting our users or customers to use our products, like what is the context over there. And I'll say the short word for heuristic is just shortcuts or rule of thumb, right? That's the easy way to remember it. It's a rule of thumb or something. So the question is, how do we get our like as we're thinking about the context of use of that situation, versus we can look at two potential situations, right? Number one, if someone's using a product or our app on a mobile phone, and they're highly distracted on the mobile phone, right? They have WhatsApp, they have instant messenger, they have notifications going on and on and on, and they're on the street and they're crossing the road and things like that. All these things are really gonna, make them even more distracted. So they're not gonna have the cognitive capacity to decide on something big, right? So if you want them to say, hey, can you make a decision on buying a laptop right now, right? Or can you make a big ticket purchase or make one of those big decisions? They're just not physically able to do that on the mobile phone, right? Because that is the context they're in. They're like, everything's like getting their attention. However, if you are, if your customer or your user is in their home and they're not distracted, they're just looking at your website or they're just looking at your app and they're fully focused, then probably you can display more information on the page. You can get them to think about, a much bigger decision, right? Versus like, or make a bigger purchase versus like a smaller purchase. So it's important for us as designers to understand the context of use, but also important for us to understand, that the human brain is inherently lazy, and we have to understand how the human brain works and the little ways that true science, right, of how it works, in order to actually design a better experience, right? But some people will call it manipulate the user. I think there are different ways to go about it, and there's a whole entire thing about ethical design and a debate about it. But my objective over here is how can I as an instructor help you design better experiences so you can save people time and energy, so that they feel it's a pleasant experience for them. So use this to your advantage. Well, there's this one exercise I'll love you all to do, but I think we are running out of time. It's a test that I usually do with people to see whether they have the potential to be a UX designer. So I'm actually going to skip this test. But if I could summarize one lesson about this test, is that start noticing and start observing, the web pages you use or the apps you use. Start to notice what are the patterns that are coming across in all the different apps and web pages that you use. For example, something you might notice is that on a mobile phone, for example, right, you notice that most apps only have one key call to action, right, on a page itself. You don't see them displaying 4 to 5 options of what you should be doing. And that's something to be conscious about the context as well, right? Because the more you expect and demand in terms of attention from your client, the less they have of it, depending on the context they are in and depending on the time of the day as well. So that's something you need to be conscious about.
And Daylon, a question came through from Georgia earlier in reference to looking at that A/B testing. What are the most effective ways to actually test designs practically for them as a startup?
I'll say use the software to test it. There's one. I mean, this is not a startup friendly software because of the pricing. But we partner with A/B Tasty to kind of like teach this in our courses. But there are other softwares as well. Like some allow you to like create landing pages. So there are some software that allow you to create landing pages, and you can test your landing page and optimize conversion rate in your landing page. So there are cheaper alternatives for startups. Yeah. That's also, you can also do it manually, but it's just slower. And the way I would do it manually sometimes is that I would just like when we are testing for our own marketing campaign, we need a baseline, right? This is like statistics 101. You need a baseline data of what the performance is at the start, and then once you have that data and you collect that data over a period of time, then you start implementing your changes, and you implement it like not too many changes all at one shot. If not, you can't do proper attribution. So we just implement like one change that we think will have a result, and then we monitor it over a period of time. That's the manual way to do it. Yeah, it's just really slow. So I recommend that you use the software if you can. Another software that I think is quite startup friendly. It's nothing to do with A/B testing, but you can basically look at data and observe how people are using your site. It's Hotjar. We use it as well. So that's something you can consider. Cool. Okay, we're nearing the end, so let me see if there's anything else. If you'd like to read more about mobile forms and why am I telling you all these things about designing, about context in mobile, you can read this article called Designing Mobile Forms, and the source would be Newson Norman Group. So the insight that they found is that people have trouble remembering passwords, right? So if you don't have a social media login in your page for your mobile design, please implement it, whether it's a Facebook or Google login, because that will help you increase like the number of people who are signing up and things like that. Okay, so to summarize, this is what we've learned in the last 50 minutes or so, right? UX design is a process. It is a process where you continuously improve and gather feedback and listen to your customers. And it also requires co-creation with people, right? You work with your designers, you work with your users, you work with your business stakeholders to kind of develop a solution together. I'll show you a video of how Apple does their product design, and then we'll kind of end off from there. Oh, one important thing, if there's only one takeaway from this class, this is a process that grounds you in reality and truth, right? Especially when you're a startup. There's so much variance, there's so much uncertainty. If you practice this process and are disciplined in talking to your customers and practicing it, it will help you out so much more instead of just like, you know, having assumptions or just kind of like, you know, throwing a dart in the dark, right? So this process it helps you stay disciplined, and eventually you'll figure out like, this is what I should work on. This is where my services or my product is going to generate the most value for the world. Okay, so my biggest takeaway from this video, and I'm someone who reads a lot of what Steve Jobs said in the past as well, and how he thinks about business, is to say no, right? As often as you can, rather than say yes to something. And it's about the focus that you have. A lot of startups that I meet, and sometimes I might mentor as well, they have this ambition. I want to solve every problem. I want to do everything. I want to like change the world, right? And I think that's a fair ambition, and you will get there if you survive that to get to a certain size, right? But the problem is when you're right at the start with limited resources, you need to focus, and focus is the one thing that will help you survive. And focus is also better for customer experience as well, because you don't want your customers like having to be confused and understanding, what are you exactly trying to do? You can do this, you can do that, you can do everything a little bit, but then you're not really focusing on one thing and getting to the core and solving one thing. And if you observe all the great products that we have out there, like all great products have one thing in common. They solve one key problem that we have. You might notice like Netflix doesn't specialize in sharing about the news and sports. And the CEO, Reed Hastings, said this very clearly, right? We are a company that's all about entertainment, right? And it's not that news and sports isn't entertaining, but the core of Netflix is about like drama and movies and TV, and that is their core. And they found that as a startup back then, if they focus on their core, their business just grew much larger versus then trying all these other different ideas. So that's something I hope you take away, is that focus and that discipline. These are some of the tools that we use as UX designers, or if you're hiring your first designer, they should be familiar with either one of these tools, including Adobe XD and InVision. Figma is a very popular tool these days. And we use some of the user testing tools on the right as well. Now, if you're interested as a founder to read more about UX, these are the two books I would recommend. They're just really good reference books to share among your team, including Don't Make Me Think and 100 Things Every Designer Should Know About People, which has a second edition. So these are the two books I would recommend. So just to share, we run a 2-day course and we run a 4-month course. I think for most of you, you're probably not a part of the target audience for a 4-month course. You're not becoming UX designers, but we do run a 2-day course. If you're interested as a founder, you want to bring your business problem, you want to innovate, and stuff like that, happy to talk to you after the class to see how we can help you all the way from research to design to testing, and share everything in that course, including how to the parts about making your products more addictive or more usable. I'll skip all of these. I mean, testimonial stuff. We work with a lot of different people, including designers and startup founders. Okay, happy to take questions for the last 5 minutes if there are any.
Thank you so much, Daylon. I definitely learned a lot myself, and I'm sure, and I can see also some of the startups here are working on products where you may have already started your journey of UX, or maybe you're refining and optimizing. So please make the most of next couple of minutes to ask Daylon any questions and expertise. And I know IU also asked in the Zoom chat if it's possible to share a link to that video, that Apple video you shared earlier.
I think it's possible. Let me just bring that up while you guys type your questions, okay?
Feel free to.
Let's see, how do I do this? Okay, any other questions? Nope, no questions from the crowd at all. Yes, thank you. Okay, if there isn't, reachable on LinkedIn. You can email me if you'd like to find out more about our course. It's run on Singapore time. It's a 2-day workshop and it's run on the weekend, so it shouldn't distract you as a founder. And yeah, be happy to share more. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well. Is there Okay, great. Thank you
so
for the
much.
feedback.
Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you
Awesome.
much.
You're welcome. All right. All the best for your the program.
Thanks, Daylon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
All right.